If you're considering leaving New York and retiring to a new destination, stick around because in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to use my new retirement tool to help you find the best state to retire. Hi all, Chichi here, New York-based realtor with the focus on helping seniors and retirees sell their homes and find the best locations to retire. Now, if you're someone who will be retiring soon, but you're not quite sure on your retirement destination, you might be familiar with some of the best places to retire lists. These lists are published every year by the likes of Forbes, US News and World Reports, Niche, Bankrate.com, MarketWatch, I mean, the list goes on. But do you know what the trouble with all of these lists are? None of them take the time to actually ask you what you're looking for in an ideal retirement location. They assume everyone wants the same thing, and so they present the exact same places to everyone. So I actually created this tool because the number one question that I always ask each and every client before I put their property on the market is, if you were to sell this home, where do you plan on moving to next? And believe it or not, the number one answer that I tend to get, I don't know. It's a little bit more difficult to sell your home if you don't really have a sense of where you're going. And so I usually use this tool to help my clients whittle down their options and really start the conversation around, what are my interests? What am I looking for in my next destination? What would make me happy in my ideal retirement location? So let me walk you through how we use this tool, how I use this tool when I'm having a one-on-one session with one of my clients. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate how I walk my clients through the use of my retirement tool to help them identify potential locations to retire. So the very first thing we do is we start at the Google homepage because this is really simple, and sometimes I do these walkthroughs virtually, so it's just really easy to say go to Google first. And then after that I say go to my website, which is www.listwithchichi.com. And once you navigate to my website, you'll be able to look at the header here, which kind of outlines some of the offerings that I have, how it works, my FAQ, my blog, and then the last link here is the retirement tool. So I have them click on retirement tool. And then once you click on retirement tool, you are then taken to a list of questions that will help you to whittle down your options when it comes to states to retire. So all you would do is you would go through these series of questions and you would answer them based on your personal preferences or based on you and your partner's preferences. It might be helpful for you if you are someone who's going to be retiring with someone else, whether it be a partner or significant other. It might be helpful for each of you to do this separately and then compare your answers. So the very first question, right under where it says find the best state for your retirement, number one says, how important is living in a state that allows you to pay the least amount of taxes? So this includes sales tax, income taxes, Social Security tax, as well as pension taxes. So this is depending on your situation. Some people will have pensions, some people will not. Some people might be earning an income, some people might not be earning an income when they're retiring. So just keep this in mind. Answer this question based on your specific situation. And then if it's incredibly important that you pay the least amount of taxes, then you would scale or scroll the slider all the way over to number 10 under where it says it's very important, which means that it's very important that you live in a state that allows you to pay the least amount of taxes. Now, if for whatever reason taxes doesn't bother you, paying high taxes isn't a problem for you, you might want to scale this down and say, you know what? I'm kind of on the fence about this. This is not the most important thing to me. Or maybe it's not important to you at all. In that case, you would leave this at a number 1 because you're indicating that it's not important. So typically this answer usually is scaled at number 10. This tends to be something that is incredibly important, as you know, people in their retirement years tend to be sensitive around income, or so just keep that in mind. And so we're going to keep this at number 10 for for these purposes. Now, moving on to number 2, it says, how important is living in a state that has little to no natural disasters? And then in parentheses, it says fewer than 50 in the last 70 years. So does living in a state that has hurricanes scare you? Does living in a state that has earthquakes scare you? Or tornadoes? Things of that sort. If you want to really stay away from states like that, if that's incredibly important to you, then you would put this at a number 10. If maybe, a hurricane every now and then, or a light tornado every now and then, or an earthquake every now and then doesn't really scare you, you can put this at a 5 or a 6 and say, you know what, it's not the number one thing that I'm worried about. I'm just going to keep this at a 5 or a 6. And then you would just keep going for every question. So how important is living in a state that provides access to mountain ranges with a peak of 3,000 feet or higher? Now, if you want to have mountain views, or if you want to be able to go hiking often, or you want to look out the window and see mountains, if this is incredibly important to you, then yeah, you would scale this all the way to a 10. If it's not the most important thing in the world and you don't really care for mountains, keep this at a 1. And then move on to the next question. So how important is living in a state that has access to renowned hospitals? So US top 50 in cardiology, diabetes, cancer, or geriatrics. If healthcare in retirement is something that you know is going to be very, very important to your quality of life, then you would scale this up to a 10. Okay? I would actually recommend that you keep this above a 6. Because even if it's something that's not important now, it might be something that becomes important down the road. And so rather than having to move again where you're closer to a hospital, you may just want to be close to a hospital right now. Or moving down to question number 5, how important is living in a state that has access to international airports? So if you love to travel, you want to be able to leave the US and fly somewhere else and go on vacation elsewhere, or maybe not so much international airports, but you just want to have access to airports that allow you to get to regional destinations that much quicker, maybe to see family or extended family. If this is something that is incredibly important to you, make this a number 10. If it's not so important, all right, make it a 6. If it's really, really not important and not a priority, keep it at a 3 or lower. Next question, how important is living in a state that has open carry gun laws, no permit required? So, this is something that a lot of people hold highly. They really want to have access to being able to hunt, or being able just to walk freely with their guns and really express their right to the Second Amendment. So if this is you, then you would place this at a number 10. If this is not you, then you can place this at a number 1. Number 7, how important is living in a state that has access to coastal beaches, whether it be the West Coast, East Coast, the Gulf Coast, or the Great Lakes Coast? So if you want to be able to drive to the beach and the beach is 10 to 20, 30 minutes away even, then, you could make this a 6 or higher. If you want to be on the beach, maybe you want to make it a 10. But if you just want access, anything above a 6 would be good. How important is living in a state that is warm? Average temperatures of 50 degrees Fahrenheit or higher all year round, right? Some people might have arthritis where the cold weather really irritates the bones. So you may need to be in warm weather all year round. And so if this is something that's incredibly important to your ability to enjoy your retirement, then you would make this a 10. If not, you would scale it something much lower. Number 9, how important is living in a state that is not undergoing a clean water crisis? It's something that's not often talked about on the East Coast, but some of the states on the West Coast are really undergoing a clean water crisis whereby they have to ration water. And it's not fun. It's not fun to not be able to do the things that you are used to doing on a daily basis. So if you don't want to have to worry about having access to clean water, then you definitely want to make this a 10. But if, having access to clean water is not really a priority, or rationing water is not something that is of concern to you, then you could make this a little lower. Next question, and the final question, number 10. How important is living in a state that has a highly rated active retirement community? So a lot of states have these these active retirement communities throughout. So if you're someone who definitely wants to have access to an active retirement community, or you definitely want to retire to an active retirement community, then you would make this a 10. If you are more free spirited and you really don't want to be in a retirement community, you'd love to be someone that's living independent, living on your own, having your own home, then you would make this much lower because it's something that is not important to you. All right. And that really sums up how I utilize this quiz. And once you have answered every question and you feel like the scale is tuned to your personal interests and to your personal criteria, then you can go ahead and click find, because this will find the best states for your retirement based on your selections. So here's how we interpret this chart. So obviously we all know that this is a map of the US and it's color coded based on your preferences. So the darker the color, the more likely it is that that state matches all or is aligned with all of your preferences as you indicated when you answered each question. So you see that the darkest two states are Texas and Florida, and those are the two states that we see here. They're the top two states that we see because it seems as if all of the items that you indicated as being the most important. You wanted to pay the least amount of taxes. That was number 10. You wanted to live in a state that had access to renowned hospitals. That wasn't a number 10, but it was still ranked highly. You wanted access to coastal beaches. So that was a number 7. It wasn't a 10, but it was still ranked highly. You wanted to live in a state that's warm all year round. That was a number 10. So based on all of your highly rated questions, I would say 6 and higher, this map or this tool allows you to then say, all right, well, based on what you want, the best states for you to retire ideally are Texas or Florida, right? And, we can also say Illinois, but it's a close second for Illinois because Illinois seems to be a tie between Illinois, Ohio, Tennessee, Virginia. So, and also California. It seems like all of these states are a tie. So hopefully this is helpful. And then so once you have the top 2 states for you to consider for retirement, then my clients would then relay that to me, and we will then begin the process of pairing them with a partnering agent in either of these 2 states to start the process of looking and finding a best location or the ideal location for them to retire in either of these 2 states. So it's really a multi-level process whereby the first step is go to the website, answer these questions, get a sense of what exactly it is you're looking for based on these questions, and then utilize the answers or the suggestions that are provided to then take the next step towards finding your ideal retirement location, whereby we pair you with the partner agent in one of these states to begin the process of helping you to search for your ideal retirement destination. All right, and after you have your multiple options, you can also choose to share your results on Facebook, tweet your results, or you can share your results on LinkedIn. If you're someone who is not already my client, and I didn't refer you to look at the website, you can then schedule a consultation with me by clicking on the red button, and then you can just get on my calendar and we can discuss your result and discuss some next steps in terms of helping you and pairing you with a partnering agent in one of the top destinations that were suggested. Okay, so I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that you find the tool helpful. All right, so that's a demo of this tool. I highly encourage you to use it if you're someone who's thinking about your retirement destination, but you're not quite sure. I think it's a great way for you to start the conversation and really work to, again, whittle down those options. And if you have any feedback or if you have any thoughts about it, I encourage you to leave those comments down below. All right, so that's it for this video. If you enjoyed the video and you learned something new, consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one.